Hello, ladies. I'll regain my sense of humor in a second, but bear with me because I need to act all serious. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Fradenburgh, and I'm a real estate guy from the internet. And on the internet, a lot of people are full of shit. I own realestateisascam.com because I know smart, attentive people who lost big in real estate for highly predictable reasons. That people can rent a $30,000 watch, a luxury Airbnb, and a Lambo for the day, and instead of seeing what I see, which is a waste of what could have been investor distributions, people see, hey, this guy must be doing something right, and the guy who wears a watch he bought as a teenager in the 90s must be doing something wrong. Well, they're trying to lie, and the truth of real estate is that time can attract success better than bullshit. And any on-paper millionaire will tell you that the only promise in real estate that it actually has a chance to keep is that you'll be more flexible in your schedule than with a typical full-time job. And if you're a real estate podcaster like me, sometimes I'll do stuff just because I wanna. Okay, was that stupid enough for you? I figured I'd try and tickle the old funny bone there. So anyway, first of all, Yasmeen, how you doing today? Other than having no voice.
Yes, I don't have a voice, but I'm okay.
And you have no words either, I imagine. So what'd you think of the intro? How did that tickle your funny bone?
Figuring out, like, how did you keep a straight face looking at the camera and doing these things, and where the hell did you find the equipment?
Hey, you're right, exactly. Barbara, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm
personally
fantastic.
loved it. So
Awesome. That's really sweet. That's really sweet. So this is called Because I Wanna, and once again, it really is about the part of your life where you can control your schedule, you can make choices, like me being able to hang out with Yasmeen and Barbara. This is really cool. It's decadent. And the first segment I have for today is going through this week's chess interviews. One of the biggest ones that I have right now is the one with Brian Escudero. Yasmeen, Barbara, have you met Brian before?
Yeah.
Escudero, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Great guy. Yeah, okay, it doesn't ring a bell. So he's also in the media part. But actually, Barbara, before I throw up a little clip here, you were featured in our bloopers sizzle reel. What was your experience like with the Chess with Commercial Real Estate Investors show?
Yeah, that was honestly a great experience. I'm not an avid chess player, but I know how to play chess. I thought I would do okay, but talking, recording, playing chess, and then thinking about what I'm going to say, interacting with you definitely was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And I think, yeah. And again, there was a point where I said, hey, stop that. Stop it right now.
Yeah, it was really hilarious. My kids really got a kick out of it for sure. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure that I share that little clip. It'll just take a minute. Enjoy this little sizzle reel. Here we go.
And maybe it's, oh, why did I see that?
Cool. Okay, I know what I'm going to do.
I know what you're going to do too.
As you're talking, I'm like trying to. This is a perfect little game. I love it.
No, not that one.
I was actually like, uh-oh. I'm like, oh, no, okay.
And then you thought for a second, Emma, bad news.
Right.
I see what you're doing, but I can't stop it.
You've absolutely pinned that one down.
Oh, yeah.
When did you take my queen? This is very distracting.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't like you so much, Dan. I'm just sorry.
Finally.
I really. Let's be honest here. You'll probably never speak to me again. I'm just not coming back. I don't know.
You know me pretty well by this point, I think that when I'm doing something like playing chess with my peers, it feels self-indulgent. I feel like I'm playing hooky. I feel like I should be doing something more real estate-y. But building those relations have been absolutely fantastic. But what do you think, Yasmeen? Do you think I'm totally out to lunch with this chess show idea?
No, I think it actually looks really fun. I mean, I'm the worst double tasker, so I don't know if I could even handle a conversation and chess at the same time, but it
Hmm.
looks like a lot of fun.
So the next segment here, just to what I want to do, I think what's been missing in the commercial real estate space, the real estate space and content is a lack of variety within the single pieces of content. And so I want to make sure that this is the kind of thing you can tune into and leave it on in the background while you're doing your emails or whatever. And you're just picking up a thing or two when it comes to real estate on the side. Some food for thought, another thing to talk to your investors, your lenders, different people in your network. So the next segment right here is This Week in Lending. Here we go. Hey, how's it going? I'm Dan Fradenburgh still, and now we are on the segment called Joe Makes People's Heads Explode. I'm with Joe Cook. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm great, Dan. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And I want to let the audience in on what we're doing here. So, Joe is no spring chicken. He's been in the industry for decades. And one of the things that I pride myself on is when I'm not the expert in the room, I learn to shut up and actually just take in the information. And that's why I'm calling this Joe Makes People's Heads Explode, because he has been on the lending side of things. Me, I went from tech into syndication and running buildings. And so it's a different world when you're dealing directly with lending. And I'll always be grateful for this experience. But what I want to start off with is I want to get the wheels turning for some people. I know a lot of people are thinking about making their own private loans, perhaps to the house flipper in their neighborhood or in their network or something like that. And I've been in real estate long enough to realize that that's a terrible idea. And you really should get some guidance by people who've got some scars and that sort of thing. So I guess we'll start off with a fairly softball question, which is Joe, if somebody comes to somebody where they know they could be a potential lender, let's say they're an accredited investor, they're a house flipper or something like that, how frequent is it, like as a percent of people who'd approach you, where the person is basically I'm not sure what the term, I don't want to say unlendable, but unbankable, I guess you could say. Like what's the proportion of people who are good borrowers to bad borrowers in your experience?
Well, the term that you're fishing for is they're just not a good borrower.
Not a good borrower.
So, and as we often do when you and I get in discussions like this, I'm going to take exception that it's not a good idea. It is a good idea. There's just a whole lot of criteria that takes it from a bad idea to a good idea. And that's the way with an awful lot of investments. So making a loan on a real estate asset that you have enough collateral and you have the right documents, that's a good idea. That's consistent, and you just have to learn all the pitfalls.
Exactly.
And
So with you, I guess the real skill is you learn to adapt to the situation and figure out how it could work. And I think that's very similar to how people in real estate, not, but I mean outside of the lending side, people in real estate in general, I think one of the reasons why they're so accepting to this community is because they know that people often have things to offer that even they don't even know. So they're looking, some people, they need time from some people, they need capital from others.
well, so your original question was how many are good borrowers and how many are bad borrowers, really, basically. And I don't even think about it that way. The deal itself, the collateral itself, is the major thing, and that your borrow is not fraudulent is the other thing. because a bad borrower at some level is an opportunity. So we could go down all kinds of rabbit trails relative to this. But so let's start with the fundamentals. The fundamental thing is, if you have an asset that you can secure that asset and sell it when the borrower doesn't pay, then and get all of your money back and all of your interest and all of your costs, then that's a good loan. Doesn't really matter what the borrower is, as long as he's not fraudulent and doesn't take you 2 years in court to get it.
Yeah, that makes lots of sense. And we were also just talking about perhaps sharing with the audience how to identify where you are in a cycle. And right now in commercial real estate, because of the rise in interest rates, that really hit valuations in the last couple years, just because anybody who wants to make a new purchase, they're going to be paying more for their loan, which means there's less wiggle room for the actual seller to receive that capital. So that's a tough one. But you said your response when I was talking about cycles might surprise some people, and it might be a good candidate for why I say it's Joe makes people's heads explode. So you were saying something interesting about cycles. What was that?
I don't care about the cycle. I mean, the example that we used non-real estate was Warren Buffett. He's never not in the market. He has more cash sometimes or less cash other times, but mostly he's just looking for a value. So if you apply it to real estate, if you're going, and then in real estate lending specifically, which is what we're talking about, is real estate lending, then the cycle makes no difference. The key metrics are the term that your loan is, the underlying asset and its potential change in value over that term, and is your yield comparative, is your yield commensurate to the risks that you think you're taking. And that's really all that matters. There's not a whole bunch of metrics. I mean, a few others. Can they burn it down? Can they go into bankruptcy? Can the government during COVID stop foreclosures completely for 2 years? I mean, like, you can really put that on your radar screen, you know. I mean, so there's still some outliers, but for the most part, if you have an asset with a value, is the value going to hold during the yield term? And do you get enough return, enough interest based on the risk?
So that brings me to the idea of gambling and mitigation of risk. And that's also because we did that one content piece where I was playing poker, where I was saying, this is what I would do. And your answer is like, I absolutely 100% would not do what you're proposing, Dan. And what that is really, it for you, you don't approach it the way that I'd say gamblers do. You don't even approach poker the way that gamblers do, in the sense that it's math for you. It's arithmetic. And I'd say that that's also true when it comes to lending. And I think that's also why the spot in the cycle you find yourself in, it doesn't really matter, because basically those features cancel each other out. If you're always looking for that same buffer of arbitrage, then it doesn't matter if you're in an up year or a down year. You should have that same buffer floating up and down with the economy. Is that a fair way to sum all that up?
Well, sort of, except for the public doesn't, you know, people, the viewers don't know the analogy, how the analogy ties back to the real estate. So let me try to tie it back to the real estate. So in our silly poker game, you were the gambler because you don't know the math. You don't even really know the game. And it caused a gamble to happen. Me knowing the math, I'm a risk taker. So I'm calculating what the risk is relative to your action, blah, blah. So it's the same in real estate. If you're if your neighbor comes to you and says, I want to borrow money on this fix and flip, or some arbitrary person comes and says, I want to borrow money on a fix and flip, and you say yes and write him a check, I would call that a gamble.
Mhm.
If you search the title, value the property, record the documents, know that you're in a state that you can foreclose on in 120 days, and the value proposition is based on the on all of those factors, and he's willing to pay that value proposition, and then you add X dollars, then it's not a gamble. It is a calculated risk that's going to take me some period of time and some set of actions to collect. I mean, the example is really, really simple to make. And without knowing whether the audience knows all of these terms, a deed of trust is the representative security instrument for the loan. So same guy comes to you, you do all the analysis and you decide the loan is good, and you give him the loan instead of giving him a check, and you record a deed of trust that says, if you don't pay me, I get to collect. And let's say everything goes wrong after that. He doesn't pay you. You file the notice of default. He declares bankruptcy. You're a collateralized instrument. You get it out of bankruptcy. You go back to title, and you go to the foreclosure. The foreclosure says, yes, Joe's got first position on ABC fly-by-night poor fix and flipper. And yes, you can go to trustee sale. And if my loan was $100,000 and all those costs are 25 grand in 6 or 8 months, and I do an opening bid of $125,000 and I get my $125,000, then it was a good loan. Now, did I have a bad borrower? Yes. Were all of my criteria correct? Yes. Did I have to fight for my property? Yes. If that all happened in a year, was 25% return worth that battle? The answer is yes. So there's a really bad loan, a really bad borrower with a really good loan, that if you do your homework, it's not a gamble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Happens all the time. It actually happens all the time. People just don't know it. They're not aware of it.
It makes lots of sense.
In every cycle, back to your
Right.
tangent, it happens in every cycle.
Right.
So if we're talking about valuation, and this is a big property valuation because a lot of listeners are multifamily people, but is making a 70% loan to value at a 3 cap more secure than making a 70 or 60% loan to value, which is what's going on now, at a 6 cap? Which one's more secure? Which one's safer?
Right. It's
both could be made in each of those cycles.
Right, exactly. And it just I know it's a rhetorical question, but the main thing is that, if you know that inflation targets are 2% and they haven't really been hitting it, then your 3% is going to vanish pretty quickly, and your money's just simply not performing at a 3 cap. So,
well, you also know that you're a 50-year low. So is this a time to be piling in?
Definitely not.
As an owner, I don't know. As a lender, if I've got enough of the loaner's equity, maybe.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I hope that was informative. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get to see more content like this. Thanks. All right, that was really awesome. This week in lending, and you can tell by my enthusiasm. But the next thing I want to talk about on this recurring show here is this week in new books on the horizon. So I'm going for a completely different direction with this production because I wanna, and with the books that I've done in the past, like Real Estate is a Scam, Figure It Out, Eat Your Boss's Lunch, those 3 different publications. And what I want to do is I'm starting to take co-authors that are in this space, especially people who've been eager to get published, be in a book, be able to have that business card sort of document, something tangible you can show people about your time in real estate. And it's going to be something that I do. I put out a volume once or twice per year is the idea. And the title, the working title right now, is How to Reliably Lose Money at Real Estate. And I'm really looking forward to volume one. Once again, I'm a broken record, which is a thing that doesn't exist anymore. Oh no, wait a second, vinyl's a thing again, right? So there is such a thing as
Oh,
a broken
definitely.
record, right? So okay,
Yeah.
even you youngsters remember what a record is finally again. So that's fantastic. But that's going to be the broken record that I'm all about working on. And I got a couple other ones where I think Yasmeen, you'd be a great contributor separate from that. But that's what's going on for books. As far as giving you guys a chance to talk, so I'm not just sitting here on my soapbox. Do you guys want to mention anything that you're finding influential these days? Or I think especially a book where you haven't really finished reading it, you're still like just getting into it, rather than one that you've already finished and you know that it's great. Yasmeen, Barbara, who's reading something cool?
I'm actually rereading a book for the second
Mm-hmm.
time because the first time around it was so good. But I think that when you really want to get a message, you're gonna read twice because you're gonna catch stuff the second time around. But the book is really good for any entrepreneur in general, and it's called 10x is easier than 2x, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. I love that one. Dr. Benjamin Hardy actually sent me some copy. So if
Mm.
you're in the Ottawa area, if you're going to be around or you know where I'm going to be, make sure that you message me and say, "Hey, I want a copy of that book," and I can hook you up with a hardcover copy of it. And I absolutely love his idea because that's one that I'm definitely guilty of, which is pursuing 2x ideas, because I'm like, hey, well, but it's progress, it's still building, but
Hmm.
but not realizing the cage that it creates pursuing these 2x ideas, and how it really limits you from doing 10x ideas. It's such an important message. It's fantastic. Barbara, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I got recently into reading, I think it's called Mindset. I think it's by Dr. Carol. Can't remember her name. Yeah, started reading that. Haven't gotten too far into it. So far, it's great. I really am enjoying it, but I've only done maybe like 10 pages of that so far. That's my new book. Otherwise, I'm completely and utterly overwhelmed by, line tracing some templates right now for underwriting, and that's my reading at the
All
moment.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm sorry for the highly distracting messing with the different layouts and trying to get one where, you're taking up more of the screen than the other two. And instead it became me being humongous and you guys being itty bitty for no reason. And then it was just you humongous, and us thinking it's like, oh God, yeah, have the other two been disconnected? Or are we now
That's
alone right now?
funny.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. A little breakdown of the panic, but that was really, really awesome. So that's what the new week in new books on the horizon, that little segment here. So next, I want to talk about this week in the news. And then once again, I want to give you guys a chance to talk first, because I think, Yasmeen, you also know where I like to go when it comes to spicy subjects in the news, which is just basically anywhere where there's a great big problem, and hop into there. But we'll pause that for a moment. Who has something that's on their mind in the news? And the more real estate ish it is, the better. But what's going through you guys through your heads these days?
For me, I actually have not seen too much news, and whatever news I've seen has been more tragic. It's just been about the genocides internationally.
Hmm.
With regards to real estate, I was just looking at the different interest rates and percentages, and that's it. And I
Hmm.
think that it's just been a very bad year economically for multifamily, from what
Hmm.
I've read so far. And the people that I've talked to within the industry that have admitted, like, whether they are struggling or like what's struggling to cash flow, so on and so forth. And I think that
Hmm.
it's kind of staying really still until the next election. Not to get too political, but I think that is like part of it, part of the nature of it.
No, yeah, I think you balanced that one really well. Barbara, how about you? What's on your mind?
No, I was going to say, I think that's the topic of everybody's mind, is just tracking the mortgage rates, tracking, also insurance is, I'm reading tons and tons of insurance articles right now, just from different Investopedia, different local groups that put out insurance articles. Those are the two hot topics right now, because if you want to get anything done, you're otherwise going to be priced out by those two elements and have to retrade within your due diligence period. So overall, it's pretty tough. I've had a couple conversations with brokers this week and just told them we're doing our best, but right now, I hope you guys can be flexible with us as we're flexible with you, because until we get those rates set in stone, we really don't know if what we're putting in our LOI. I mean, we do know to some extent, right? We have a surety of where we're at, but until those rates come back and it's finalized, you just never want to retrade off the bat and go back to the broker and say, hey, I know we came in at this, but these quotes are hard now. This is what we're doing. And yeah, it's just everything I can read about interest rates, insurance rates, and any combination of those two in the market right at this time.
I love what you're saying there, because it's a real tough thing to explain, if I'm going to be really, really blunt. Like when it comes to reluctance to retrade, like putting a price out there, by that point there's already been an accepted letter of intent, and so you're basically, well, that's what renege means. It means renegotiate, and that's why it becomes a problem. But just to understand the scale here, you'll run into situations as a real estate person where if somebody knows that there's something somewhat problematic, at the end of the day, they might really only be buying it for like 50K or basically, I mean, like 5 figures. But then they find out that there's, 6 figures in repairs to even, like break even at the pricing that's there. So it's just basically insane to continue with the deal. So I thought
Exactly.
that, yeah, I thought that was a good example, personally, as far as like just really making sense of that all. But that's great stuff. The thing for me, as far as what's in the news, I found that it came into a situation this week where I guess Yasmeen, like I meant again, because I mentioned, you know me a little bit better. We've spoken about a lot of the sensitive topics, as far as like what does it mean as far as being from different economic strata? What kind of differences are there in treatments depending on your physical appearance and that sort of thing? And one thing that's coming up, the main thing that I would say is the hottest button topic, and don't worry, I'll tread lightly. The hottest button topic out there right now has to be Israel and Palestine. And the other thing too is I can't, I'd be remiss in not mentioning my last name is Fradenburgh, and a lot of people assume the horse in the race that I have. And the truth is, it's actually a Dutch last name, and so I actually don't have any Jewish ancestry or anything like that. And so, like, as an outsider of that, I think that's somewhat relevant. But one thing I did this morning, which was fantastic, was hopping on Yona Weiss's podcast. And one of the problems is that when these days, if you are interacting with anybody, then it people sometimes read between the lines and they think where you put your horse in the race. And the thing that made me very happy about the interview was I was able to say something that Yasmeen, you and I have spoken about on a few different pieces of unreleased content that we're going to put out, and some that I'm sure is out there, which is that at the end of the day, people agree on way more things than they disagree on. in general. And usually the issue is communication. And the situation as far as Palestinians and Israelis interacting outside of the news is that it's totally normal for Israeli people to, like, from what I understand, it's very similar to the way that Californians will frequently have Mexican housekeepers. So it's that level of daily interaction where every Israeli very likely will know plenty of Palestinians and be on good terms with them. However, if there is fighting going on, that's evidence that communication is not happening well and that there are people involved that are not playing so nice.
Yeah.
So that was how I put it. And I think that was pretty delicate,
Yeah, was.
dodging all of those different laser beams. And I want to say that that's what's on my mind. And I'm very happy to have not have, what do you want to call it, deafening silence on the subject. It's so, and that's about my 2 cents on that. So, and that's why I podcast. It's because, you know, anything where I feel like, you know, I'm not just consuming the same content as everybody else and getting my opinions from that. That's the stuff that I think, as a guy who's not told what to do all day, every day, so I can actually have time to think through my philosophical systems, and I get to socialize with other people who have time to think things through as well, and I can do it on a regular basis because networking is part of the business. So that's really one of the cool things that I want to do in this show, is have a chance to discuss those things. I know that I stood in the sandbox. My main thing is I don't really want you guys to get in trouble by sharing any opinions that are a problem, but like I want to give you a chance to say something. Barbara, is there anything on your mind that you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, you know, many people know I lived in the Middle East for a total of 4 years of my life. So, you know, that's something that I regularly have had conversations, and I would never. I would, you know, I learned very quickly I would never sit there and try to surmise any type of, you know, bring my own summary to it, because I think the summary and the intent and the feeling and an explanation of what's happening is really best done by those who are affected and those that otherwise have been living through it, you know, and not just within this generation, from previous generations, from, you know, the onset of the conflict between, you know, these two groups. And overall, you know, me personally, I've heard just about everybody's opinion, especially living in the Middle East. Everybody, you know, it's something that's talked about, you know, pretty regularly. And, you know, but overall, you know, and to your point earlier, I think the majority of us can agree and can come down and understand that either way, really the focus should be on making sure that certainly civilians and people that are experiencing this conflict are protected. You know, I know other people have their opinions and things like that, but certainly civilians, you know, on both sides. And also, you know, I'm in the military, so for the U.S. military, I think everybody can. I think that's one thing we could probably all agree on, is definitely the civilians really should not be feeling the effects of this. And you know, I really hope, as I've said for many years, that at some point there will be enough voices in the crowd and in general that can support making sure that people are not unduly affected by the, you know, this whole conflict in general.
Excellent, excellent. So I didn't know the part about your history in the Middle East, and so I'm really glad, and like I hope you understand why I was protective. The best example I can give for that is maybe you saw the headline on the Onion, where I'm not going to name the side. It's like the Onion supports blank side because you get in less trouble for that.
Right. I think I saw something. I think I saw something from the Onion for that. Now, obviously, the
Right.
Onion's completely satire.
Right,
So-
right, exactly. So it's like
Yeah.
that was some pretty wild writing. But for the last segment of our first episode of Because I Wanna, thanks again, ladies, for joining. But it's Joe Makes People's Heads Explode. So I'm going to share this video. I think I'm going to go and I need to pause it first. And of course, I got it on 2x speed, and that's not going to be so great. So if I hit present and I go share screen, and then I go window, share out a tab or screen instead. Oh no. Okay, and I'm going to pause. Boom, cancel. All right, awesome. I should probably have some sort of meme on here. I don't even know what I'm doing, but yeah, this is the first episode of Because I Wanna. Ladies, can I call you ladies? Do you mind being called ladies? Ladies, okay?
Ladies
I-
is perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I never bothered to ask. I know in some circles it's not the most popular one, but please do keep an eye out. You can hit the subscribe button down there for more episodes of Because I Wanna. Because yeah, I think if I wanna, you probably do too, and I might as well bring you along for the ride, I guess. But thanks for coming today. I look forward to doing this again.
Thanks so much, Dan.